now that I have put you to sleep. Rest there in the shadows of Socroveno, beneath the canopy where light filters through leaves like fragments of memory. You fought well, soldier, better than most who have crossed my sights in more than a century of warfare. But even the finest warrior must eventually succumb to the tranquility I offer. Not death, never death. That would be too simple, too final for what we share in this moment. I am the end. Perhaps you already knew that. Perhaps in your dreams, as the tranquilizer courses through your veins, you see me as I truly am. An ancient thing, a relic, a ghost who has lingered far too long in a world that has forgotten the old ways. Let me tell you a story while you sleep. It is my story. The story of a man born when the world was younger, when forests were deeper and wars were fought with conviction rather than politics. It is a story that spans more than 100 years, though the weight of those years sits differently on my shoulders than it would on yours. Time, you see, has a strange relationship with me. It passes, but it does not consume. Not yet. Not until this final hunt. I was born in the 1860s. Let that settle in your mind for a moment. 1860-something. The exact year escapes me now, lost to the countless seasons that have blurred together like watercolors in rain. Abraham Lincoln was president of your United States. The Civil War raged. Russia was still ruled by czars. The world I entered was one of muskets and cannons, of cavalry charges and bayonet assaults. It was brutal. Honest in its brutality, perhaps, but brutal nonetheless. I do not remember much of my childhood. The details have faded like old photographs left too long in sunlight. I remember forests, always forests. The smell of pine and earth, the whisper of wind through branches that seemed to speak in a language older than words. I was drawn to the woods even then, before I understood why, before I knew that they would become my home, my sanctuary, my cathedral. As a young man, I learned to hunt. Not for sport, you understand, but for survival, food, pelts, the necessities of life in a world that did not offer easy answers. I became skilled with a rifle, patient. The forest taught me patience. You cannot rush a deer or force a rabbit from its warren. You must become part of the landscape, breathe with the trees, move with the wind, become invisible not through technology, but through understanding. The wars found me eventually. They always do. When you possess a particular skill, the world notices. Governments notice. And governments, in their infinite wisdom, decide how best to use you. I fought in conflicts whose names you would need to search for in history books. Forgotten wars, border disputes, colonial struggles. I saw the 19th century give way to the 20th while standing behind a scope, watching men die at distances they could not comprehend. But something changed during one of those wars. I do not remember which one. They blend together after a while, you see. Different uniforms, different languages, different justifications, but always the same fundamental truth. Young men dying because old men make decisions. During one of these conflicts, in some forest whose name I have forgotten, I was infected. A parasite, not the kind that weakens you, not the kind that drains life away. This was something different, something extraordinary. It entered my body, and instead of destroying me, it transformed me, enhanced me. gave me abilities that I am certain you noticed during our battle. The ability to sustain myself through photosynthesis, like a plant, like the very trees I had always felt such kinship with. Can you imagine it? The sensation of sunlight on your skin, becoming more than warmth, becoming sustenance. The way chlorophyll moves through leaves, that same process began to occur within me. The moss that grows on my ghillie suit, that clings to my body, it is not just camouflage, it is part of me now. We are symbiotic. The forest and I have become one in ways that transcend metaphor. The parasite also gave me time. Far more time than any human has a right to possess. My cells regenerate. My body heals. I can remain in the same position for days, weeks even, without food or water. Just sunlight and patience. Just the forest breathing life into me as I breathe life back into it. This gift, this curse, allowed me to perfect my craft in ways that would have been impossible for any ordinary man. I became the father of modern sniping. That title is not one I gave myself. It is what others called me, what history would record if history cared to remember men like me. Every technique you have learned, every method your military teaches, every principle of long-range marksmanship, they all trace their lineage back to me. Camouflage, concealment, range estimation, wind reading, breath control, the art of remaining absolutely still while the world moves around you. The patience to wait hours, days for a single perfect shot. I did not write these techniques down in manuals. I did not teach them in classrooms. I learned them through decades of practice, through centuries of observation. I learned by watching animals, by studying how predators hunt, by understanding that a sniper is not merely a soldier with a rifle, but an extension of nature itself. The forest was my instructor. The wind was my mentor. Time was my training ground. Eventually, others sought my knowledge. Governments wanted to bottle what I knew, to mass produce it, to turn it into doctrine and strategy. I taught some of them, the ones who showed promise, the ones who understood that sniping is not about killing, but about patience, about respect for your quarry, about the sacred relationship between hunter and hunted. One of my students was the boss. Ah, the boss. The Joy, as she was known then. What a remarkable soldier she was. Is. I taught her much of what she knows about long-range combat. She possessed natural talent, of course, an understanding of warfare that seemed almost instinctive. But she also had something I rarely saw in soldiers: humility. The willingness to learn, the patience to listen to an old man's stories and extract wisdom from them. We worked together for a time. She was assembling something extraordinary. A unit of soldiers, unlike any the world had seen before. Each member would bring unique abilities, unique perspectives on warfare. We would become known as the Cobra Unit, the sons of the boss, though I suppose calling us her children would be more accurate. She was our mother in every sense that mattered. The Cobra Unit was formed to combat the Axis powers during World War II. By then, I was already ancient by human standards, over 80 years old, though I appeared perhaps 60. The parasite had slowed my aging, stretched out my existence. I had fought in more wars than most men could name. I had seen empires rise and fall. I had watched the technology of warfare evolve from muskets to machine guns, from cavalry to tanks. But the Second World War was something different, something unprecedented in its scale and horror. The world was tearing itself apart. The Cobra unit was deployed for the nastiest kinds of operations, the missions that could never see light, the actions that had to be erased from memory. We were ghosts even among special operations forces, too valuable to risk capture, too dangerous to leave our bodies behind. That is why we carried microbombs, small explosive devices implanted in our bodies. If we died, the bomb would detonate, eliminating our corpses, our identities, any evidence that we had ever existed. It was a practical solution to an operational problem, but it was also a philosophy. We had no countries to return to, no homes. The battlefield was the only place where we truly belonged, the only place where we made sense. Each member of the Cobra unit was named for an emotion we brought to the battlefield. The pain, the fear, the fury, the sorrow, the boss herself, originally called the joy. These were not arbitrary names. They were truths, fundamental aspects of our nature that we channeled into combat. I was called the End. Not because I brought death, though death often followed in my wake. I was called the End because of the emotion I felt in battle. Total oblivion, complete and utter focus. When I hunt, everything else ceases to exist. The world narrows to a single point. My target, my prey. Nothing else matters. No thoughts of the past, no concerns for the future, just the eternal present moment. The perfect shot waiting to be taken. This is not bloodlust. It is not hatred or anger or fear. It is something purer. It is the hunter's trance, the state that predators enter when stalking prey. Time stops. Breath stops. Thought stops. There is only awareness, only the connection between hunter and hunted, only the end. In this state, I could wait forever. Days would pass while I remained in position, my body sustained by sunlight, my mind empty of all distraction. Soldiers would walk past me without knowing I was there, not because of any technology, but because I had ceased to exist as a separate thing. I had become part of the environment, part of the forest itself. My closest companion in all these years has been my parrot. A beautiful bird who has been with me longer than I care to remember. He calls me Grandpa. It is an affectionate term, accurate perhaps. I must seem impossibly ancient to him, though he himself has lived far longer than any parrot should. Perhaps the parasite affects him as well. Perhaps merely being near me has extended his life. I do not know. I do not question it. He serves as my spotter, my extra set of eyes. In all my years of combat, I never needed a human spotter, but my parrot, he understands me in ways humans never could. He watches when I sleep. He alerts me when danger approaches. He speaks to me in his language, and I understand him. We are companions, partners, friends in a world where such things are rare for men like me. During World War II, we fought across Europe. D-Day, the Battle of Stalingrad, operations that changed the course of history, though our names appear in no history books. We were too effective, too specialized, too dangerous to acknowledge. The Cobra unit operated in shadows even darker than conventional special forces. We were the philosopher's weapon, the hidden blade that carved out victory from the chaos of global war. I remember Normandy. The beaches ran red with blood while we moved inland, our mission too classified to record. The boss gave birth on that battlefield. Can you imagine? In the midst of artillery and machine gun fire, she brought life into the world. The child was taken from her immediately. Spirited away by agents of the philosophers, I never learned what became of that baby. The boss never spoke of it, though I saw the pain in her eyes for years afterward. After the war ended, the world changed again. The Cobra unit was officially disbanded. We went our separate ways, each carrying our micro-bombs, each understanding that we were soldiers without a country, without a home. We existed in the space between nations, in the gray area where loyalty becomes meaningless and only the mission matters. I returned to the forests, always the forests. I spent years, decades simply being, watching the world evolve. Technology advanced. The Cold War began. Nations realigned themselves along new ideologies, new hatreds. But the forests remained constant. Trees grew, animals hunted, seasons changed. The fundamental rhythms of nature continued regardless of human politics. I grew old, truly old now. Even the parasite could not stop time entirely. My body began to fail in small ways. I needed to rest more often, to sleep. The old wounds ached, the memories weighed heavy. I knew my time was approaching, not in years perhaps, but in months. I was over 100 years old. I had fought in countless wars. I had perfected the art of sniping. I had taught legends. I had seen empires crumble. I was ready for the end, my end. But I wanted one final hunt, one last perfect moment of oblivion before I returned to the forest forever. I wanted a worthy opponent. Someone who would challenge me, someone who would make this final act meaningful rather than a slow fade into darkness. Then the boss called us back together, August 1964, more than 20 years after we had been disbanded. She defected to the Soviet Union, or so it appeared. She brought with her nuclear weapons. The Cobra unit reunited under her command once more. I understood immediately that this was not truly a defection. The boss was too loyal, too committed to her country for such a betrayal. This was a mission, a cover operation so deep that even most of her own government would believe the lie. But I did not care about politics. I cared about the mission she gave me. A Fox agent named Naked Snake would be coming. He was the boss's apprentice, her student, trained by her in close quarters combat. A soldier of exceptional skill. She wanted us to test him, to see if he was truly worthy of her teaching. She told me that this snake would be my final hunt. The end I had been waiting for. The perfect quarry to close out a century of warfare. I met him briefly at the docks of Ponizovya. He came on a mission to recover some scientist or other. I do not remember the details. I remember seeing him, though, young, capable, moving with the confidence of a skilled operator. I was being transported in a wheelchair, conserving my energy. Already I was essentially dead, kept animated only by sheer will and the photosynthetic processes of the parasite. I needed to save what life remained for the confrontation to come. I was carried to Sokroveno, the most holy woods, the largest and deepest forest in the region, a place that had been venerated since ancient times as the sacred home of the spirits of the forest. If any location was appropriate for my final hunt, it was there. I could feel the spirits around me, the ancient presence of trees that had stood for centuries, the accumulated wisdom of countless seasons. I found a good position and I slept, waited. The forest sustained me. Sunlight filtered through leaves, water collected on moss. I was perfectly camouflaged, perfectly still, perfectly patient. I had waited days for shots before. I could wait as long as necessary for Snake to arrive. My parrot stayed with me, keeping watch. He would wake me when the time came. And eventually you came. I woke slowly. My parrot alerted me to your presence. I could hear you moving through the forest below, cautious, skilled, using the terrain well. You were everything the boss had promised. I felt a surge of gratitude. Not many soldiers would have been worthy of this final hunt. But you, Snake, you understood what we were about to share. I prayed to the forest, to the spirits. "Grant me the strength to take this final prey," I asked. "Let me linger in this world just a little longer. I have already slept enough for one lifetime, enough for an eternity." The forest answered. I felt power flow into me. The moss on my body glowed with renewed vigor. The sunlight seemed brighter, more nourishing. The trees themselves bent their branches to shade or illuminate as needed. I called out to you, thanked you for waking me. If you hadn't shown up, my sleep would have been eternal. That would have been acceptable, perhaps, but not fitting, not worthy of what I had been. I am the end, I told you. I am here to bring you to your ultimate fate. You will make a fine quarry for my final hunt. And what a hunt it was! Socraveno became our arena. 3 zones of forest, river, plateau, and clearing. Every meter of it familiar to me. Every rock and tree and stream known intimately. This was my domain, my cathedral. But you, Snake, you adapted quickly. Used thermal goggles to track my footprints. Employed the directional microphone to hear my breathing or my snoring when I fell asleep. You even found my parrot, captured or killed him. That made me angry. The only true anger I felt during our entire battle. My companion, my friend. You took him from me. But even that was part of the hunt, part of what made you worthy. I used every technique I had perfected over a century. Camouflage so complete that you could look directly at me and see nothing but forest. Positioning so patient that I could wait hours for you to move into the perfect line of sight. I fired tranquilizer darts, never bullets. I have never been comfortable killing, even in war, even as a soldier. The tranquilizer lets me end a threat without ending a life. It is a mercy, perhaps, or maybe it is weakness. I no longer know the difference. You adapted, found ways to counter my advantages, used the environment against me, anticipated my movements. I have fought thousands of soldiers in my long life, tens of thousands. Very few challenged me the way you did. The hunt stretched on for what might have been hours or days. Time lost meaning, as it always does when I enter that state of oblivion. There was only you and me, hunter and prey. Though which of us was which became less clear as the battle continued. I felt myself slowing. The tranquilizer rounds I carried were limited. My stamina, even supplemented by photosynthesis, was finite. The end was approaching. Not the name, not the emotion, the actual end. My end. And I realized I was grateful. This was how it should be. Defeated by a worthy opponent in a place I loved. Returning to the forest, not in a hospital bed or through slow degradation, but in combat, in the hunt, in the oblivion I had lived for all these years. You found me. I do not remember the exact sequence of shots. Whether you used tranquilizers or something else, it does not matter. What matters is that you defeated me fairly. With skill and patience and understanding, you proved yourself worthy of the boss's teaching, worthy of the legacy we Cobras represented. As I lay there, feeling my life ebb away, the forest around me began to change. The ghillie suit I wore, covered in moss and lichen, shifted from green to orange, like dying leaves in autumn, like a tree preparing for winter. It was beautiful, appropriate. The forest was reclaiming me even before death arrived. I spoke, not to you really, to the spirits, to the trees, to the centuries I had witnessed. I thanked them, the spirits of the forest. Thank you for giving me strength. Thank you for sustaining me all these years. Thank you for this final hunt. I looked at you, Snake, saw the exhaustion in your eyes, the respect. You had not taken this lightly. Good. I told you that the boss would be proud, and she would be. You were everything she hoped you would become. Everything I had hoped for in a final opponent. Then I said the words that had been building in my heart for decades. The time has come for a younger generation to rise. I've been wandering for more than a century, and now my journey comes to a close. What a splendid way to end it all. I have no regrets. I can return to the forest at last. My dentures came loose as I spoke those final words. An undignified detail, perhaps, but also honest. I was old, ancient, holding on through willpower and parasites and moss. The veneer of life was cracking, revealing the truth underneath. I felt my parrot land on me. He had survived. Good. I would not be alone in these final moments. His presence comforted me in ways I cannot articulate. Then the microbomb activated. The explosion was quick, painless. In an instant, my body was obliterated, scattered across the forest floor, returned to the soil, to the trees, to the spirits, exactly as it should be. But something remained. My consciousness, perhaps. My spirit. I lingered for a moment, watching you stumble away, processing what had just occurred. You had won. You had killed me. But you had also given me the greatest gift, a worthy end, a perfect conclusion to an impossibly long story. I hope you understand what we shared in Socravenno, Snake. It was not hatred. It was not even really combat, not in the traditional sense. It was a conversation between warriors, a dialogue conducted through scopes and patience and understanding. You spoke the language of the hunt fluently. You understood the oblivion I sought, the end I represented. Years after my death, I learned that a scientist named Code Talker recovered what remained of my body, studied the parasites, learned their secrets. My gifts, my curse, my symbiosis with nature, all of it was dissected and analyzed. The parasites were eventually used by a man named Skull Face, deployed against soldiers, weaponized. That saddens me, if I am still capable of sadness. The parasites gave me life, extended my existence, allowed me to become one with the forest. To see them used as weapons feels like a corruption of something sacred. But perhaps that is the nature of all things eventually. We create, we perfect, we pass on, and what we leave behind is twisted into shapes we never intended. My techniques, the sniping methods I pioneered, they too have been corrupted in ways, turned into doctrine, stripped of the spiritual connection to nature that gave them meaning. Modern snipers are effective, certainly, but they do not understand what it means to become part of the forest, to let go of the self, to enter true oblivion. They aim and fire and move on, efficient, unprofessional, dead inside. That is not what I taught. That is not what sniping was meant to be. If I could offer any wisdom to future generations, it would be this. Patience is not merely waiting, it is becoming. When you wait in ambush, you must cease to be a person with desires and fears and hopes. You must become the tree, the rock, the wind. You must let go of everything you think you are and merge with the environment. Only then can you take the perfect shot. Only then does the hunt have meaning. And when the hunt ends, when you finally achieve your objective, there should be no satisfaction, no pride, only gratitude. Gratitude that you were given the opportunity. Gratitude to your quarry for the challenge they provided. Gratitude to the forest for sustaining you. Gratitude to the spirits for guiding your hand. This is what I learned across a century of warfare. This is what I tried to teach. This is what the boss understood better than anyone. That we are not separate from the world we fight in. We are part of it. Every action we take reverberates through the web of existence. Every life we take, even in the service of duty, diminishes us slightly. Every moment we spend in hatred or anger or fear pulls us further from the truth. The forest knows no anger, the forest simply is. And by becoming part of the forest, I learned to simply be. No regrets, no shame, no pride, just existence. Just the eternal present moment. Just the hunt and the oblivion and the end. I am grateful I found you, Snake. Grateful you gave me that final perfect hunt. Grateful you understood, even if only instinctively, what we were creating together in Sokroveno. You could have killed me earlier, at Ponidzovye, when I was sleeping in my wheelchair. Some soldiers did exactly that in other timelines, other possibilities. Ended me before the hunt could begin. Part of me respects that pragmatism. But another part, the part that lived for the hunt, is grateful you allowed me this final dance. Or perhaps you simply could not have known, could not have anticipated what would come. Either way, it worked out as it should, as the spirits intended. I wonder sometimes if I could have lived differently. If I had not been infected with the parasite, would I have died young? Would I have missed all those wars, all that killing, all that suffering I witnessed and participated in? Would I have been happier as a simple hunter in the forest, taking rabbits and deer rather than men? Perhaps. But that was not my path. The parasite found me for a reason, extended my life for a purpose, allowed me to perfect my craft to levels no ordinary human could achieve. I became what I was meant to become, a legend, a ghost, the end. And now I have ended, returned to the forest as I always knew I would, my atoms scattered across Sokroveno, mixed with the soil, absorbed by trees, consumed by insects and worms and fungi. I am part of the cycle now, part of the eternal rhythm of death and rebirth that sustains all life. This is not sad. This is beautiful. This is right. The moss that grows on trees in Sokroveno carries traces of me. The moss camouflage you obtained, Snake, that was mine, infused with my essence, with the parasites that sustained me. When you wear it, you carry a piece of me with you, a piece of that century of patience and observation and communion with nature. Use it well. Honor what it represents. I hope the spirits of the forest remember me kindly. I tried to respect them, to live in harmony with them, to take only what I needed and give back what I could. The sunlight I absorbed through photosynthesis, I returned through my presence. The oxygen I breathed, I exchanged through the moss on my body. I was a closed system, a perfect balance, neither taking nor giving, simply existing in equilibrium. That is what I wish for all soldiers, though I know it is impossible, that they might find that balance, that moment of perfect stillness where nothing needs to change because everything is already exactly as it should be. Most will never experience it. Most will die angry or afraid or confused, but a few, a very few, will understand, will touch that state of oblivion, will know the end before the end. You touched it, Snake. During our hunt, I felt it. There were moments when you disappeared completely, when I could not find you, not because you were hidden, but because you had ceased to exist as a separate thing. You became the forest, briefly, instinctively. Without training or understanding, you accessed that state warriors spend lifetimes trying to achieve. That is why the boss chose you. That is why she knew you would succeed, not because you were the most skilled or the most ruthless or the most dedicated, but because you had that potential, that spark of something greater, the ability to let go of self and merge with the moment. Cherish that gift, Snake. It will serve you well in the darkness to come. And there is much darkness coming. I can feel it even now. The world is changing again. The Cold War will not remain cold forever. Nuclear weapons will proliferate. Ideologies will clash. Good men will be forced to do terrible things in the name of nations and causes they barely understand. You will be one of those men. I see that future reflected in your eyes. You will carry burdens no soldier should have to bear. Make choices that will haunt you for decades. The boss will die by your hand, and that death will shape everything that comes after. You will become Big Boss, a legend yourself, but legends are heavy. They weigh on the soul. Remember Socraveno, Snake. Remember the forest. Remember what it felt like to let go, to become part of something larger than yourself. When the weight becomes too much, when the choices seem impossible, return to that state, even if only in memory, even if only for a moment. Let the oblivion wash over you. Let the end come not as finality, but as release. That is my final lesson, my ultimate technique. The secret I learned over a century of warfare. How to die while still living. How to surrender without losing. How to end without ending. The forest taught me this. The spirits showed me. And now I pass it on to you. Not through words, really. Words are inadequate. But through our shared experience in Socraveno, through the hunt we conducted, through the mutual respect we granted each other. That is how such knowledge transfers, not in manuals or lectures, but in moments of perfect understanding between warriors. I am glad I waited for you, Snake. Glad I held on those extra days, those final weeks. Glad I did not die in my sleep in some forgotten corner of the world. This was better. This was right. This was the end. Now I truly sleep. Not the half-sleep of a sniper in position. Not the conservation of energy between engagements, but the final sleep, the eternal rest, the return to soil and root and leaf. I can feel myself dispersing, consciousness fading like mist in morning sun. It is not frightening, it is peaceful, natural, as it should be. The forest welcomes me back, the spirits guide me home. After more than a century of wandering, of warfare, of endless patience and perfect shots and hunts that blur together into a single eternal moment, I can finally rest. I have no regrets. I lived exactly as I was meant to live, died exactly as I was meant to die, became exactly what I was meant to become. Thank you, Snake, for being my final hunt, for understanding, for granting me this perfect end. I return to you now, to the moss and the soil, to the trees and the wind, to the eternal cycle of growth and decay. I am the end. I was the end. I will always be the end. And now, at last, I have ended. The hunt is over. The forest is quiet. Only the wind remains, whispering through branches, carrying secrets only the ancient trees can hear. Somewhere a parrot calls out, "Grandpa, Grandpa!" But there is no answer. Only silence, only peace, only the slow, patient rhythm of nature reclaiming what was always hers. This is how a warrior should die. Not in a hospital bed, not in some meaningless skirmish, but in the place he loves, defeated by a worthy opponent, surrounded by the spirits he served, returning to the earth that sustained him. This is the end. This is how it ends. This is how it was always going to end. And I would not change a single moment of it. Farewell, Snake. May you find your own end as perfect as mine. May the forest embrace you when your time comes. May you know the oblivion I lived for. May you understand what it means to truly let go.